my question to you. How did you shift in the past year? Because you were here, I interviewed you about almost a year ago too. You've had
Yes.
a huge shift, right? Like, and now you appear so much more confident and powerful. Like you've totally stepped into your own. Um, what was your journey like on your own front to do all the things that you now do for others? Like, what was that like for you? Like, like walk me through everything. Where did you start and where are you today? Because you're like such a great example of someone who similarly like changed your belief system, changed your mindset, and then started seeing amazing opportunities pop up like the ones you were telling me about. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, so my journey has been an interesting one. I mean, just my journey in the last year from the last time I was on your podcast. And by the way, I'm so thrilled to be a double feature on your podcast. I feel so honored.
You're the first. You're the first. There's someone else who's going to be in April, but like, yeah, you're the first double feature.
I looked it up and I was episode number 2. That's so cool. And it literally was like a year ago. And so much has happened for me just in that last year. But I'll take you way back to the journey and how it really all started. My story started when my life crumbled after having a miscarriage. I lost my second child to miscarriage, and that landed me in divorce. I was so lost and lonely and desperate after my miscarriage. My husband and I, we didn't see things eye to eye on how that we both took that loss very, very differently. And so I felt very alone after that. And in my loneliness and in my desperate need to be seen and validated, I had an affair. And that ended our marriage. I went home one day and said, we need a divorce. And that was one of the hardest, scariest things I've ever done in my life. And that set off a chain of events that changed my life forever. Um, so that's I haven't talked about this like out loud
I know this is
in a
incredible.
in a public forum before. So this is big for me.
Yeah,
Um,
it's still raw.
yes, yeah. Well, not raw. I mean, I've really processed this and healed through this. But to know like how much to say, what do I say? Because it's totally different when you're airing your laundry versus telling something that's really going to resonate with people and help them to grow too and know that they're not alone. Like there's a really big difference in those two things. um
Well, you're definitely not alone. I know a lot of people that have experienced like everything like in various stages or in different manifestations of it or the full thing. So yeah, you're not alone. Definitely, this is what people do. Yeah.
yeah, so after ending my marriage that way, like I clung a lot of guilt, clung to me after that. And that is what caused me to continue to struggle and struggle and struggle for years after my divorce. It led me into, an abusive relationship and hitting rock bottom multiple times, abusing alcohol to drown it all out because, like, to escape. That's a really tough place to be. And so yeah, I hit rock bottom. And when I saw that it was like really affecting my son, the way my life was going, the way I was feeling, and my depression and my anxiety was starting to affect him, that's when I was like, done. I am done with this. Like, he deserves better. Not only does he deserve better, I deserve better. I am done with this. And so, like, I literally had nothing in this moment. I'm living with my grandmother. I am, earning minimum wage, only part time, going to school full time, like receiving government assistance. And I invested $10,000 in a coach to pull myself out of this hole. I had to do that to prove to myself that I was worth it. Like that was the ultimate like self declaration to myself that I am worth it. I can do this, and like, by God, I'm changing my life. You know, I made the ultimate commitment right there. And I did. I dedicated the next year of my life to like turning everything around, to becoming really aware of everything that was going on in my head, all of those crazy limiting beliefs, those stories, those the negative self-talk. Man, my inner bully, and she was a real bitch. I hope I can say that here, but you know, she's nasty.
Of course you can
And
swear. It's my show. You can swear. Have you heard me?
she she was nasty, so I had to get her under control. And then I like really had to work on my forgiveness, forgiving, you know, the past abusive relationship that I was in, forgiving my ex for, you know, his part in our divorce, because there's always two sides to this. And then, but most importantly, forgiving myself, you know, and releasing that guilt, and deciding that I was worthy of a good life and that I was worthy of love again. So this was like a huge, huge journey. And for the first time in my life in 35 years, I really actually loved myself again, or again, ever. Like I never experienced, I never had this like feeling of confidence and self-love and worthiness before, ever. And so this was so huge. And I just started like living my life differently. And so I started attracting different people in my life. And that's when I met Dave. And boy, had I not done the work, had I not spent the last year like doing all that work, there is no way our relationship would have ever survived. It was because of that work that I was able to attract this relationship and make this relationship work and last. So I attribute everything in my life right now to that year of work that I did.
And that's huge, and that's kind of proof in the pudding, right? Like you're like you went through it. You went through the darkness. You went through the loss, the tragedy, the grief, the forgiveness, and the picking yourself up. I love when people talk about rock bottom, and you said it. You're like, I hit rock bottom a few times, right? It's not just like one rock bottom, and then you're like, whew, all right, let's get up, you know, right? It's like continuous until what? Like, what is that moment? What is the thing that needs to happen before someone is really ready to make a change?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you say, it's multiple rock bottoms. You don't just hit rock bottom once and then like you pick yourself up and I'm like, yeah, I'm good to go. No, like there's different levels of rock bottoms. Like my first rock bottom was my miscarriage. You know, like I was contemplating suicide. Like how much more rock bottom does it get? But it gets worse, right? Like I fell even lower. There was another bottom below that, you know, with the alcohol abuse and the, you know, the relational narcissistic abuse that I experienced. And then there was another bottom below that. And I think that turning point, what gets you out of it is when you hit the point where you go, okay, you shift from victim mode, from like to taking some responsibility and like, okay, I've hit rock bottom so many times. What am I doing wrong? Where am I responsible for these outcomes? And you become willing to like really take a hard look at yourself, your behaviors, your beliefs, your patterns, and like you become willing to say, okay, damn it, I'm done with this. And I'm going to change my behaviors. I'm going to change my beliefs that are leading me to these behaviors. Like it's really when you hit that point of your willingness to step out of victim mode and take responsibility and take control of your life.
I love that. My sister and I we have the saying of like it's in Hebrew, but we say like, what am I eating? Like, what am I eating? Like, what am I eating that's so bad? You know, and it's we used to say as lifelong dieters, and we got it from my mom. Honestly, my mom's like, well, yeah, like my mom is very like she, you know, she kind of passes the blame as it were, like where it's I didn't do anything, you know. So it's like why am I gaining all this weight? I didn't eat. What am I eating? You know, and I think that it's so easy to fall into that pattern versus going, you know what I did to get me here? I know why I manifested this situation. This conflict, I did this for a reason, so that I could, or that I could learn this, or that I could try that, right? So that's a huge thing, and it's not easy when you're in the thick of it, right? To like,
Right.
and if you're not in the habit of doing it, do you find that almost a consistent thread with your clients that you work on with relationship stuff? Like, and you specialize with people like post divorce, right? So do you
Hmm.
think like radical accountability? Like, do you think that's a big thread that people don't maybe do when they're going through stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's natural for us to go into victim mode when our circumstances are hard. You know, it's because it's easier. It's easier, it's comforting, it's but it's not healthy and it's going to keep you stuck. So I think that yes, you called it radical responsibility.
My client Jen Kohler, she calls it radical accountability.
Radical
I
accountability.
think that's what she. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's what she called
Yeah.
it.
Well, I think that that's 100% what you have to get yourself out of it. Like, just I'm owning my side of the street. You have to own your side of the street and say, this is what I did. This is where, like, I've gone askew, and, own that and do something about it. Right. It's in the shifting it. You can't just claim it and say, yep, I did that, and then like keep doing it. You have to actually, go through the effort and the work to then shift it and change it.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking back to like working with you on like really painful shit, and it's like I know you do not mess around though. Like you're just like I should say, please work with Michelle. Like I'm not just saying this. Like
You
I've done it.
make me sound so scary and
I
tough
know.
and hard to work with.
No, no, not hard to work. You get in there though. It's not hard to work with, but like it's you're so effective. Like it's just I'm telling you, I've never experienced results like this working with anyone else. I mean, I was I tell all my clients, I'm like the first day I worked with Michelle, literally stuff came out of my mouth that I hadn't said in 20, 30 years. 30 nah, who am I kidding myself? It's shit is like 30 years now. It's not 20 years. Things don't happen in 20 like 30 something years ago. That's when I was the last time I said these things, you know, or thought about these things. But you're right. Like it is always about like, you know, you're good. Like you receive. Like you're like okay, you're sensitive. You're empathetic to the pain. But then you're like, all right, now I need you to say something like for accountability and I love that you help us really shift from victim to being in an action mindset. Like so how did you go from all this like shit happening to you, you know, I mean we know it happening for you, but like the stuff where you're in that mindset, you turned it around and then at what point did you decide, oh, coach, I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to help other people. Right? Cuz I think a lot of people when they're that low to the ground, the last thing they think of is to help other people.
Yeah, of course. Well, so when I was at the peak of my healing journey, like the healing process, I was like on top of the world. I feel amazing. I wish everyone in the world could like feel this way. Like I want to make everybody else feel this way. Everyone deserves to feel this way. I was on top of the world. And I thought, this is how I got started with working with children, because I thought, wow, if I had known this earlier in my life, things could be so different for me. Things would have been different. I would have had the confidence, and I never would have like started down this path of self-destruction in the beginning. And so I really wanted to help children to learn like these awareness techniques of like how they can control their emotions and build their confidence and understand like why are bullies. It's not about them, it's about the bully, and like shift their perspectives and all of these things. And so when we were talking a year ago, that's the path I was on. I was doing the kids yoga classes, I was teaching kids empowerment classes and doing all that. And then I realized, the best way to help kids really is to help their parents. Because at the end of the day, these kids are going home to their parents, and happy parents raise happy kids, right? And looking back on my own journey, like that was my motivation to like dig myself out of this was Dylan. And when I shifted, he shifted. And I started sharing with him everything that I was learning, and he started doing them, and he was growing with me. And it was like this incredible like thing to watch and to see. And so like the best thing that you can do for your kids is to take care of your own mental health. Like you can't tell your kids to reach for the stars if you're not reaching for them yourself. So like literally, so I read this thing like Rick Hansen says, like the factor that has the greatest effect on children's outcome is the well-being and the functioning of their mothers. And so I'm like, moms need this. I was in this position, and shifting myself shifted my son's life. And now I am truly modeling for him what that looks like to embody that. And so I shifted to working with moms who have been through divorce, because divorce is an incredibly difficult, earth-shattering thing to go through. And but we can heal, and we can take our power back. We can rebuild our confidence and our self-worth, and we can do that for ourselves and for our children at the same time.
That's beautiful, Michelle. Yeah, like as a survivor of divorce, and it's actually the day we're shooting today is March 26th. We call this Elly Day because this is actually we got married on this day 2011, but we call it Elly Day because it's a like we tell our daughter like we got married so we could have you.
Uh-huh.
And that's that's why we joined forces. And so instead of an anniversary, so today it was really funny. I was driving. I was on the way to take Ellie to school, and so I called, or her mom called me, and I was like, "Hey, happy Ellie Day!" And she's like, "Oh, that's right, it's Ellie Day." And of course, Ellie's on speaker, and I was like, "Wait, what is that?" And Carrie's like explaining. Remember, we do Ellie Day. We started doing Ellie Day, and blah blah blah. Because mommy and daddy aren't married anymore, and we did it to have you and all these things. And she goes, "Oh, so," she's like, "Oh, so it's your anniversary." And so it's like it like doesn't end. You know what I mean? It's like it's still like, oh my god, no, we had to go through the whole thing. Like Carrie did a great job. Carrie's like, no, remember we, and she had to explain it, and
Yeah.
Ellie's like, oh yeah, it's Ellie Day. But it's just so funny that it's like it still feels earth shattering. This is a long way
Yeah.
of me saying it still feels earth shattering when we had to go through it again. To like we created this like positive thing. Again, we talk all the time. There's no, it's not as dramatic as other ones, but it's still like it's still earth shattering. It's a
Yeah. Well, and
explosion.
all of that is part of the process. I mean, as you continue to have these interactions, because once you have children, you are attached to this other person, whether you like it or not, for the rest of your life. So, it's the process. Like that's why this healing is so important, because once you're divorced, it's not going away. These things are going to continue to come up. You're going to have these conversations with your children, and you want to have those conversations from an empowered place versus a broken victimhood state, right? Because that's going to just empower your child and help your child that much more.
And like all due respect to Western medicine, this is the point: is that this kind of coaching that you're doing is I don't know that Western medicine has a thing for this. Like family therapy. Well, family therapy feels like that's what you do until you get the divorce. And then I always have this mindset, and I don't know if it's true, but like I have this mindset that if because we went to couples counseling like 2 sessions, and then it was like, oh, okay, I get it, because she proposed the divorce, and then we went to couples counseling, and I was like, oh, we are now right for each other, got it, like, and I was like, okay, we're done, like, and she's like, great, love you, like, so I have this perception, in reality, I have an experience where you do marriage counseling until the marriage is no longer, doesn't feel right anymore, and then you move past. What do you have after that? Coaching, the way you do it, and especially the things you're talking about, I just think it creates such a better life as a result.
Yeah, well, I think that that's one of the really big differences between therapy and coaching. Therapy is very past focused, where coaching is very future focused. And the goal of coaching, or at least my coaching, is to get you in that empowered place to take control of your future. Like, it's, for me, coaching is all about learning to take control and rewrite your stories so you can have the future you desire. Like, it's not about, yes, we talk about the past because the past got us here, right? And we learn from the past. There's so many lessons from the past. So yeah, we're going to talk about the past, but our goal is to set you up and shift your future. And it's very goal driven. It's very future oriented versus all being past oriented, if that makes sense.
100% makes sense. Yes, that is very true. I know, and I love it. Like, yeah, and I'm thinking back again to my experience with you. Yeah, that's exactly what we do. It's okay, great. What do you want tomorrow to look like? What do you want today to look like? Like,
Yeah.
how, here's how you do it. Here's how you get there. And I
Yeah.
think it's very easy. When I catch myself falling back into the past, like, it's because I'm looking for something familiar, but also it's because I'm looking, or because I don't, in that moment, I'm not doing the work to create a vision for a really awesome present, or appreciating what's in the present and a vision for an even better tomorrow, right? So
Yeah.
you're fucking great at that. Like, you're so good at that. What walk me through though? We're kind of hinting, and you went deep into like what are the big things, the big boulders that you move. But just for a second, like, walk me through the journey when a mom walks into your office, or virtual obviously, but like walks into your coaching. What does that progression typically look like?
So yeah, so I every single everybody's different. Okay, everybody's journey is going to be a little bit different because we are human and we are all different and we all have different experiences. However, the foundational pieces are always going to be the same. um, every foundation I want to be built on self-love and self-care. So that is number one. Are you taking care of yourself? What are you doing on a daily basis to feed your mind, your body, and your soul every day? So like, that is the first foundational piece that we are always going to work on, is your self-care. How are you taking care of yourself? How are you loving yourself? How are you filling your cup first so that everyone else can benefit from the overflow? um, and then the second piece is going to be awareness. It's becoming hyper aware of like, what is that inner dialogue going on in there, that's creating these beliefs about yourself, and causing you to show up in a certain way and react in a certain way. So becoming hyper aware, and that this is where we dig into the past a little bit and where those came from. We'll talk about how you formed those beliefs so you can then rewrite that story and shift them. You can view them from another perspective. And then next is going to be forgiveness. Forgiveness is huge, so huge. If you're living your life with anger and resentment, or guilt, or any of those things, like, you are imposing your own prison, right? Forgiveness is, we've talked about this once before, is like, not is not about like saying what you did is okay, condoning their behavior and shoving it under the rug and moving on. That is not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. Forgiveness is 100% about you, and freeing yourself from that burden, that emotional burden, that emotional prison. So we're going to work on forgiveness for others and for yourself. And then shifting into the future, like creating clarity around like, what do you really want? What is your vision for your life moving forward? And what do you need to do to create that and make that really happen? Setting up those boundaries, putting boundaries in place, for relationships moving forward. Yeah. And then, all of this is based on your self-love and your sense of self-worth, because you are worthy of all of this. You are worthy of forgiveness. You are worthy of the beautiful life that you want to create. You are worthy of having everything that you desire in your life. And so all of this boils down to your level of self-love and your sense of self-worth. And that's what we work on that's the baseline of our 12 weeks together.
That was a great articulation of that. That's beautiful. Michelle, you're wonderful. How do people get a hold of you? Like when they want to work with you, because they will, like they do, like they do want to work.
Well, I live on Facebook right now. Facebook is probably the best place to find me on my Facebook page. Um, I'll spell my last name for you because, it's a tough one. It's Pegues. It's Pegues. So Michelle Pegues. Just look me up on Facebook. You can also email me, Michelle at Family Tree Energy. That is also a mouthful. I'm working on that. I'm going to get my website updated and everything. I do have a website, familytreeenergy.com.
That's awesome. Michelle, thank you so much for coming back. My first return guest. But I'm so proud of you. You've just come
Thank
such a long
you.
way and you're doing incredible work. Thank you. Brilliant work.
Thank you so much for having me.
Always, Michelle. Always.